Hello, everyone. This is Armando Perez-Carreno, and welcome to the Web Talk Show. Today, we're joined by Keith Bertrand from MFS Exhaust Hood Cleaning. How are you, Keith?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it very much.
Can you tell people a little bit about who you are and what you do so that we can get a little background on the conversation?
For sure. So I'm the head of training here at MFS Trade School. We are the largest commercial exhaust hood cleaning trade school in the country. We've had our campus for over 10 years. We have had the school itself for almost 15 years, but our campus is located in Orlando, Florida. Our CEO and founder, Christos Daskalakis, he started hood cleaning in New Jersey back in the 60s and decided that after 30 years of doing the actual work itself, that there was a gap or a void in the education. So the National Fire Protection Association creates codes. Those codes are adopted as loosely or as strictly per state as they want. And then each state has its own jurisdictions that are broken down by fire marshals and fire inspectors. And what they do is they prevent fires. So anyone that's listening or yourself, if you own a commercial building, someone will come by with a nice little badge on them and they'll make sure that your doors aren't blocked or your fire exits work or your extinguishers work and things of that nature. So any commercial building will have those responsibilities. We have to take it a step further, right? Because all commercial kitchens have people working in them. They have people eating potentially around, or even casinos, for example, you have people living amongst the rooms, right, that are above a commercial kitchen. And so what we do is we're an advocate for ensuring that kitchens are fire safe. And so we train our students to do that. And so we're on a full phone, fledged mission, if you will, to prevent people from dying. If you were to do a simple Google search, unfortunately, people have lost their lives. They've lost their investments. Firefighters, individuals, for example. And so what we do is we train our students the proper way to inspect, maintain, and if necessary, clean the hood systems because the code technically is more of an inspection as opposed to a cleaning. But of course, if there is found to be grease-laden vapors or fire experience, then we need to properly train people on how to do that. But there are a lot of people that aren't properly trained, and so Christos took it upon himself to create a school where we would properly train people to do this.
Wow, that's when I found about MFS, I was thoroughly surprised at such a thing existing.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, commercial kitchen exhaust hood cleaning, but training for it. And then you said you're the largest.
Mhm.
I'm like, there's more?
Yeah, there are a couple other schools. We're the only one that I'm aware of that has a campus where people come and attend every month. We do a hands-on training. We also offer video training, same certification, same process for the most part. Obviously, it's online as opposed to turning on the pressure washer and getting the grease in your face and all that kind of good stuff when it comes to the cleaning process. But yes, there are other places, but might be a bit biased, but I believe we are the best at what we do because our CEO and founder created a great foundation and he trains us very well. We have to be certified, obviously, to even be able to teach these items. And so anyone that works here, even if it's just in customer service, for example, they need to know how to do this because people do call, right, and ask questions because it is very niche. You said you looked it up. It kind of blows people away sometimes. Even restaurant owners, even fire marshals and fire inspectors. The code book comes out every 3 years, but in between that time, the code book. So here's the most recent one. If you're interested, it's NFPA Code 96. This is the 2024 edition. So the next edition won't come out until 2027, but between now and then, obviously codes change, or they can change if something happens. And so we actually make sure that our students are up to date on that via their email address, something I know no one else does, but it's important because just in 2023, for example, they added to Chapter 12 and they added some new codes. And if someone was not up to date on that or didn't pay attention to it, or there's no way to know. So we take it upon ourselves to make sure that we educate everyone around us that wants to know about it because at the bottom line, we're saving lives, right? Does it happen every day? No, but when it does happen, being able to say that you did everything the right way can at least clear your conscience, right? I mean, you can't prevent everything, but if you know you're taking the right steps and you're doing things the right way, I think it eases a bit of pain in some instances, right?
It definitely does. I one of my questions was gonna be about like how would someone know to start a training business like this? But like you said, your CEO Christos was in the business
Right.
for many years, and this was way back. We said the '60s.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He started a long time ago. I really, we've talked in great lengths about some of his passions and things of that nature, and it really just sort of stumbled upon him about the importance because people have lost their lives, right? And if you're ever in a situation like that and you don't do something the right way, whatever it is, if it's hood cleaning, if it's driving a vehicle, whatever, tragedies do happen. But there was just a real gap in the knowledge. And it's mainly because if you're familiar with like Fannie Mae, for example, the people that, the organization that buys mortgages, they're not a government per se. They're not like the DOT or the DOE or whatever. They're an entity that the government uses. So the National Fire Protection Association is the same concept. It is not a government, run program. It's run by fire marshals and fire inspectors from 10, 20 years ago, and they created this organization so that there could be some sort of advocacy because there really wasn't. And it's hard sometimes to know everything to do if there isn't an overseeing group of people that are taking it upon themselves to educate themselves or to learn and to grow. So it was a very stagnant, trade and way of life for a very long time. And so he just decided that he wanted to be a part of that. We have a lot of awesome stuff in the works. We're actually going to be starting the first ever National Hoods Association. It's sort of breaking news. It won't be, coming out for a little bit, but that'll be sort of like a national, group of people, all hood cleaners, can join it, and it'll be mainly for our students, but it'll be education piece and stuff like that to sort of create advocacy around the trade itself.
Let's talk about the trade itself because it's very interesting. We all see the kitchens, we go
Sure.
to restaurants, and we sometimes they have it sort of in plain view. Sometimes it's hidden away behind those mystery doors,
Right.
and in some cases you can see the big stainless steel
Yep.
setup. But I don't think we really stop and think about what happens behind the scenes. And I think the closest one might get, if we're not in the kitchen, is like going for some hibachi or something, and you see these
Sure.
exhaust on top of you with
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
little. And I've always wondered about those little. I don't know what do you call them. The ones that have the cap on top of the little red cap on them. Are they like extinguisher
Yeah.
things?
Yeah. That's actually fire suppression.
Nice on
It's a
top,
little bit different.
underneath. Yeah, right. But
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
see the
Yeah.
hood on top. That's what
Right.
I mean. So
Yeah, that's actually hood cleaner's biggest fear is popping those or
really.
just hitting those and making them disperse. But it's very difficult to do that, and we train them how to not do it.
Mm.
But that's fire suppression. So the same people that do like fire extinguishing or the fire sprinklers, for
Mm-hmm.
example, generally that same company will do fire suppression. Those things need to be looked at every 6 months and tagged. If they're not, if you're a restaurant owner and you haven't had that done in 6 months, you might want to look into that. And then I believe it's 2 or 3 years they have to be refilled or made sure that the capacity and the pressure that are in there are adequate. But that's a little bit different. But yes, that will be on all hood systems. All hood systems are pretty basic. There's four parts to it. You have the hood itself that you're referring to. You have what's referred to as baffle filters, and they come in stainless steel, galvanized, or aluminum. Stainless steel is the best. The other two can have issues with the chemical because you have to have very strong chemical to remove some grease in some instances. And so you have the hood, you have the filters, which is the first line of defense. Then you have the ducts, right, just like your air conditioning unit, and that should go all the way to the roof. And then at the roof, you have the fan. And the fan is what the little light switch on the hood system itself will turn on and off. That is an actual fan that is sucking out all of that grease, all the smoke, all the smell. Everything in that kitchen is being sucked in through that particular thing. And so grease, depending on the type of cooking fuel they're using, right? Are they using wood? Are they using charcoal, propane? Are they frying food? Depending on the type of cooking apparatus and stuff that they're using, that'll determine the type of grease that is being, stuck inside that system. And so at the top, you're going to have like a grease trap system, or they should. Some people don't, and they never go to their roof. And we get pictures all the time from students because we try and tell them, right? Because a lot of people that are in this industry don't do it the right way. They're only cleaning the bottom part, the hoods and the filters. And so what we do is we teach them how to do the full system diagnosis, inspection, and cleaning. And that way they're actually preventing fires and, not just putting lipstick on a pig.
That makes a lot of sense. And for anyone who might be thinking like, does this apply to my home as well? This hits home. I
Sure.
We used to live in a house that had a like an oven. It was an indoor outdoor kind of thing, and it had a
Hmm.
brick oven. It wasn't a pizza oven, unfortunately, but it was a little brick oven, and you could do your fire there and cook. And then it
Sure.
had one of these exhaust fans with a nice little switch. And one time the fan died, and so we went to check so that we could replace it. And I mean, it was all black and soot, and it was just
Yeah.
a mess.
Oh,
And
yeah.
up there, so I imagine in something that's commercial, it's just running
Yes.
almost, I mean, every day, but sometimes all day, like you were saying, casinos and some of these types of businesses. I bet that gets, if you don't clean it, it's probably a big issue.
I could show you some pictures, my man, of the grossest things you've ever seen in your life in the backs of some kitchens and in these hood systems. And there have been people that have gone, 5 years, for example, without ever cleaning the system properly or looking through the system properly. And the largest growth I think I've seen is a 6 inches. So you think about the duct system, maybe it's 12 inches by 12 inches, and legit only about 6 inches. Think about it like clogging your heart, right? So that grease is doing the same thing to the duct system that it does to your
Oh,
heart. That's what that grease does, right? And so it's creating, and it's you can't bypass a duct system, and so the response to a duct system having too much grease, you have a heart attack, right? If there's too much in your heart, the system itself will go up in flames. All it takes is one spark, and depending on how that happens, right? Maybe they don't have all their baffle filters on, maybe they're missing one, and so that spark gets sucked up in there, and then it goes up. And the systems are supposed to be built, airtight. They're supposed to be sealed continuously and welded. But depending how old it is, right, maybe that's not the case. And if they've never gone and had a proper person inspect it, there could be some issues in the ductwork. And in that ductwork, grease just like water, it's going to find a way if it has the ability to. And if it starts leaking outside of that welded area because it wasn't done properly, that spark then drops all over the place, and then that whole building goes up. There was a place that just happened to here locally, the College Park Diner. It's in Orlando. Their system was not, maintained properly, and the whole place went up in smoke. They were in a strip mall area, and they were not the only building affected. And regardless of what the fire inspector or fire marshal says, as we talked about a little bit before, they do have a little bit of liberty to sort of, you know, put and use as much or as little of it as possible, right? As far as the coding goes, um, but 100% of the time, no matter what, the insurance company and the lawyers for the insurance company, I promise you, require a certified person to do this work. Because if they don't, and you're not certified, and the building does go up in flames, I promise you they're going to come after you.
that's wow. We were in Chicago once, and we started seeing smoke coming out of the building across the
Sure.
street. We were at a friend's house, and something like that had happened. So we started seeing a little bit of light coming out of the everything. It was very late at
Hmm.
night, and we started seeing a little red. And so we reported the fire. Like, I think there's like a real fire going on in that building. And it turned out, like, by the time the trucks came, it took a while for the fire trucks to get here, but it turned into like a 3 alarm or 4 alarm fire. It was like they came from everywhere, and the building just went up in
Yeah.
flames. And it was, like you said, like a strip mall. So it started spreading, and it was just horrendous to watch. Fortunately, it was nighttime, but all the investment, everything people have there, something
Yeah.
is their livelihood, and just because maybe something just wasn't checked properly
Right.
in.
And that fire suppression system you were talking about, you saw it. It points straight down at the grill, right? And
Yeah.
it points at the fryer. It's not pointing up. So if a fire starts up there, where's it going to go?
That's a
it's
good
there,
point.
right? It's too late at that point, and really better hope that it's welded, properly, because the system is meant to maintain the fire within, the duct system,
Hmm.
right? Like that's how it's supposed to be. But again, buildings are old. Once you put in a $50,000, hood system, who goes up there and makes sure that it's okay? Does anybody go up there? Does anyone go on the roof? Does anyone check the duct? You can pop a ceiling tile, right? And you can kind of see how it works. But if you're not a properly trained hood person, then you're not going to do it, right? And that's why we train our guys and girls to do it properly because we're the first line of defense. And it's a good way to build business too, a relationship with the restaurant because no one else has ever talked to them about this. Um, so that's why we teach people the way that we do. We teach them directly to the code so that they can be that person for the restaurant. We don't teach sales tactics here, we teach education. And when you build a relationship with a business owner and you educate them on protecting their investment, I mean, it's not a get rich quick scheme by any means. There's a guys that have made a lot of money doing this. It can be very profitable. We've helped people become millionaires. Now, is that everyone's story? Of course not. But if you're in the right market, you've done the right research, you have the right connections. It's just something we've talked. It's so niche. And then we expand into other things too because like we mentioned, the code is always changing. And so if they say that this needs to be done and that needs to be done, has to be done, right? And again, even if the jurisdiction doesn't want to enforce it for whatever reason, maybe it's like a seasonal restaurant or it's a mom and pop place and they just don't want to bust their chops or whatever, something happens, it's over, right? And so that's sort of the avenue we take. It's insurance for your insurance kind of thing because if you are certified, I get calls not all the time, a couple times a year. People will call up and say it'll be a fire marshal and they'll say, "Hey, is this MFS Trade School? Who am I speaking with?" "Oh, this is Keith. I run the training programs here." I'm like, "Okay, great. Can you verify the certification number for me?" So I have to go into the books and I have to go into our system and John Smith, MFS number, da 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 da, right? And they say, "Are they currently up to date with their certification?" Because you do have to recertify every year. There's another small certification they need to take. So they call and they ask, "Hey, is this person certified?" "Yes, they are." You can verify that. You will send over the doc or whatever. Like, great, thanks so much. And then I've had conversations with people who maybe got certified by us 4 or 5 years ago, still doing the work, decided to not get recertified. And that's a different conversation. Okay, is Mike Smith or whatever, are they certified? Mr. Fire Marshal, Johnson, no, we don't. They're not currently certified. Wow, great, thanks for the information. We may need to talk to you later for a deposition or something like that. So it happens, right? Again, does it happen every day? No, but doing things the right way will prevent anything bad from happening for the most part, right? But if it doesn't, at least you can say you tried your best.
That's great to hear. And for everyone listening, we've had a few episodes about around training, and this whole recertification topic hasn't come up in the few episodes. So I'm glad you brought it up. Recertification is so important in many industries, and sometimes we build system for clients where they need to keep track of those previous certifications or those previous attempts at quizzes, at courses, etc.
Right.
And sometimes they just don't have that. And so when something like you say happens, you have your books, you have your files, but some companies just got into training and just grew so quickly that they lose track of all the documentation, and then in a
Yeah.
scenario like this where you actually need the information, it could get tough.
Training is vital to anything, in my opinion. I did hoods a long time ago. It was where I kind of cut my teeth out of college, and I actually got into mortgages after that. Before I was here, I was actually the VP of lending over at a local credit union here in the area, and I kind of retired slash had some kids and never get to spend any time with them. If you're familiar with the real estate game, it can be crazy, right? Especially if you're doing 40, $50 million a year, it can be very 7 days a week, right? 10 hours a day. And then everyone wants to go to a Magic game, right? Or a city soccer game or, some realtor event or whatever. But anyway, so I got out of that into this after I met Christos, the passion that he has. I mean, all you have to do is look at our YouTube channel. We have free webinars on there. You can see if you take our course, if you get a chance to talk to Chris, he's just passionate. And, he found what he really loved in life and he ran with it. He heads our coach. I mean, obviously he heads the whole place and he does all kinds of stuff, right? The guy's a workaholic, in my opinion, but he runs our coaching and mentorship program. And so going back to what you said about training, we don't just take people's money, right, and slap them on the butt and say good luck or anything like that. Our owners are able to have Christos's personal cell phone number, and they have my personal cell phone number. And if they have any issues after the class, because it's kind of a crash course, right? It's a lot of information. It takes years and years to be able to, master this, and then they change the code on you, right? And so it has to be continuous training. And so Chris, all of our students, all 2,000 students we have in North America, we have students in Canada and Mexico and overseas and Africa. So we don't just train people here in the 48, in Hawaii and Alaska. We train people all over the world. We have military contracts, and it's vital because everything is continuously changing. So Chris offers that coaching mentorship program as a part of being a certified with us. You have a question for him, he picks up the phone at 1 o'clock. If someone blows a fire suppression system, right, he gets that call at 1 o'clock in the morning. What do I do? And he picks up. And so he's passionate about this. He's passionate about the training. And, I think it comes out not only in how we treat our students, but, it comes out in me, right? I didn't care about this stuff as much as I do when I started here a couple years ago. But now he's sort of instilled in me how important this is. And, we just really want to be able to keep people safe. That's the bottom line. And if we can help people build a life for their family and get some financial freedom in the process, I mean, what's wrong with that, right?
That's amazing. The passion is so important, and structured, of course, can get you very, very far. I love that he actually spread that passion over to you, and I imagine it just seeps into the whole ecosystem of your business, but also your learners.
Correct. Yes. If you can tell very quickly if they're MFS certified. They're going to have logoed stuff because we let our students use our logo, right? We don't care. We let our students use the video to train their people. Now, obviously, we do have a course specifically made for workers, right? But if they can't afford it at the very beginning or whatever, like we're not trying to hold people over the coals. Use the video we've given you to train your people. Make sure they're doing this the right way. You can quickly tell, right? If you're dealing with someone who's a professional in an industry or someone who's just run of the mill. And so all of our guys are passionate about what they do. And if they're very passionate about it, they're going to be successful.
That's a good point, because it's not just your training, and we'll get to who you're actually training, but
Sure.
you train these, let's say sometimes business owners or practitioners, but then they also have employees or workers,
Yep.
and you also have content that is applicable to that second level who's actually doing
Yes.
the work.
100%. So we have a workers course and we have an owners course, right? And the meat and potatoes is the same. The code, the implementation of the code, the inspections, all that stuff is going to be the same between the two courses. But what we've done is we've created an owner's course for our trades for someone who either has a HVAC business, for example, and now they're being asked by their restaurants to clean their hoods. That happens all the time. So businesses want to expand, but they're like, well, how do I do that? How do I estimate? How do I, build out a clientele? Like, what does this cost? What does that cost? How do I get insurance? And so we've built into our program all those things. Now, a step further for that would be some guy working in the kitchen, right? Let's say he's been there 10 years and he's just tired of, schlepping around all day, making people's food, and he wants to start his own business. And so our owner's course goes as deep as how to register with the IRS, how to create an EIN number, how to open a business bank account, what's business credit, right? There's things that just aren't taught on a daily basis to anybody. And so we try to encompass all of that. And obviously we can't, our course is only 3 days, right? The hands-on course. But the videos that we have in our library is available to them at any time. They can go on the dashboard, they can rewatch the videos. So it's available for, and then the coaching and mentorship program, as I mentioned before, that's something they can call us, talk to us about. So we realize training and understanding is the most important thing when it comes to, especially something like this, because it's called hood cleaning, right? That's the underlying identity of what this is. But what we're doing is we're preventing fires.
I think you're doing a fantastic thing, and the way you talk about it, I just
Yeah.
feel the love for it. I see a lot of training companies that just they find the market that needs training, and
Sure.
basically, and this we've talked about in some of the other shows, they just slap a PowerPoint basically in a video and put it up there, and that's your e-learning, and then employees have to take that, and then maybe they get a certification, but it's just to say that they got it at the end of the day.
Right.
what you're doing, since it's so hands-on and there's so much at stake if people don't do it right, the fact that you taken the time through the years to build out this whole program and also have the mentorship, and even and the business part is great. There's so many people who, like you said, they might be in the kitchen, they might want to just start something, having these tools available, but not in a general sense. I mean, I love that cities sometimes have these programs where you can go and they'll teach you some business stuff and how to get your business started and things like that. But it's generally, sorry for redundancy, but general.
Yeah,
In this case, it's like you just have them go through the exact path they need for
right.
that particular type of business, and you don't get that in a lot of places.
No, and the reason that we're able to do it is because we've already made all the mistakes. It's the running joke that Chris and I try to tell people, right? Listen, we put this together for you, right? And we're not selling snake oil, right? We're not used car salesmen. What we're doing is we've gone through this before. We've built the business out. We've fallen off of roofs. We've burned our skin. I mean, I could show you the amount of marks I have from acid-based chemical being used to clean hood systems, right? I mean, what we're trying to do is we've tried to create a all-in-one package that can allow someone, if they follow the steps. I mean, I can give you examples of people who come out of the gate running, and they do exactly what we say, and 2 years from now, they're making $1 million a year. We've had people take 6 to 8 months, and they don't do what we say. They try to do it on their own, and then they call us and they complain about it, and we ask them very specific 4 or 5 questions. Are you doing this? Are you doing this? 100% of the time, they're not doing it. And can I make everyone do everything? Of course not. But I just reiterate, listen, the reason that we talk about this, the reason we sell the equipment that we sell, right? You don't have to go all over the internet and talk to all these people. We have it in front of us, right? Yes, do we make a little bit of money off of it? Sure. But that's how we run the business, right? That's how I pay my salary. That's how Chris, that's how our customer service team gets paid, right? So it's a win-win for everybody by just allowing us to, or any industry, if they're doing it properly, they should be able to provide you with the tools that you need to be successful once you get certified. I have my brother-in-laws. I got a plumber. I got an HVAC guy. I got a drywall brother-in-law. There's no school to teach them how to do this, right? They had to go and they had to go do the job for 5, 7, 10 years, and then all of a sudden they're like, I think I want to start my own business. So what does that look like? There's nowhere they can go, right? And even if there is, do they want to spend the 400 or 500 bucks to learn how to do it? Yes or no. I guess it depends on how passionate they are about doing it. But that's why we put all this together. We rolled it all into one nice little burrito, and anybody that wants to take a bite can.
That's amazing. That was actually was what I was gonna ask. Where is MFS for plumbing, electricians, and drywall? It sounds
Right.
all of these trades are so important,
Yeah.
and you see if you talk to like a master electrician who loves his work, his job, it's amazing the things that they
Sure.
can do and the things they need to know with all the codes to be able to do
Hmm.
things properly and then avoid again
Yeah.
fires like in your case. But you see them in their old van that's breaking apart, and they've got like thousands of dollars of tools and everything in the back, but
Sure.
still you can see that they're not at the place where they should be because of what they're doing, because it's such an important work that they're doing. It should be a very profitable business if they only knew
Can
how
be.
to follow the path.
Right. You know, I hope that I don't get in trouble with what I'm about to say next, but I'm going to go ahead and do it. I'm a pretty blunt guy. The problem is Title IV. And if you're familiar with Title IV, that is what an institution needs to do to be able to allow people to get student loans, Pell Grants, and free money from the government to be able to attend a school. So we're not Title IV eligible because we don't meet the requirements of the Department of Education. So people that come to our school have to pay out of pocket. Now, we have financing options, but obviously a financing option for us is going to be 18, 20, 25%. Okay. If you get a student loan, now they're a little bit higher now, but back in the day, mine was 4%, right? That's a lot more palatable, right, to be able to do that. And so if we were able to expand Title IV into trade schools, I know Mike Rowe tries to do this on a consistent basis. I really don't know how successful he is. I'm kind of immersed into this, NFPA code sort of trade world. So, maybe it'll change, maybe it won't. I'm not sure. Hopefully, people that get passionate enough about it, want to take those next steps. But that's really the main problem is that there's no financing for people to be able to attend trade schools as far as I know. Things may have changed again, I don't know in the last couple of years. But they can't do it at our school. So I think that's the main problem, if you want me to be honest with you.
Do you think it's both the person not being able to afford the school, or also the fact that there might not be as many schools as well structured as yours because they don't think there's a market because these people
Sure.
cannot afford to pay
Right.
for them?
I think you hit it. Both would be the simple question, or excuse me, the simple answer to that, because they do have to pay out of pocket, right? And the amount of people that call us that want to do this or want to get into something like this, because again, we offer more than one. We have 7 trades total that we teach here, and they're priced differently, just sort of based off of the need and the code and things of that nature and the materials for the course. But it's both, right? Because it's very difficult to probably even start a plumbing school, right? I mean, I didn't start this school, Chris did. And I know the painstaking things that he went through having to submit our curriculum to every fire marshal, right? We had to get approved to be able to even to do this, right? So even just thinking about that concept of writing a textbook, which we have, right? Submitting it to all over the place and have people come back and say, wow, cool, we like this. Thank you. Go ahead. Teach it. So it's a process. It just takes someone that really wants to do it, I guess, right? Because you're going to take losses at some point in any venture you take. Um, you know, I back when I was probably selling more than I should have with this stuff instead of using like the educational piece. I used to have this line. I would always just say, if you're not willing to invest in yourself, who is? Right? Because if you don't want to take the time to invest in your own life, whatever that is, like if you're working out or you want to quit doing something or you want to take your life to the next level, Jesus loves you, but he's not popping out of your pocket to teach you how to do something, right? You got to take your own onus to create your own life. And so whatever you want to do, whatever your passion is, invest in it. Okay? You want to be a good dad, invest in that. You want to be a good person, invest in that. You want to start your own business, invest in it. Because if you don't, no one else is going to do it for you.
That's so true. So true. And I really hope that this gets more traction. Like you're saying, I mean, I'm glad Mike grows, and of course he has a lot of uh, reach,
Sure.
and the stuff he's doing is fantastic. Trace, I actually very recently learned a little bit more about trade school because of his stuff, and
Hmm.
it's astounding because everyone's spending all this money on university, and these colleges tuition is so expensive.
Yeah.
Well, and in some cases even before, because some people go to private school plus
Right.
university plus the continuing education to then get into these jobs that might, I mean, they might do well, they might not, you never know. It's everything's changing, but trades are required. There's so much need for these. You try to get an emergency plumber, an emergency electrician, or someone in your industry, and sometimes they're busy, sometimes they cannot go, and it's gonna
Right.
cost you a ton of money just because it's an emergency. But people need these trades and people doing these trades, and again, it makes me really sad to see that they're not like just living the life because what they do is
Yeah.
so good. I don't know. It's just it
Yeah,
baffles me.
again, I don't want to bring it back to the whole that money and government thing,
Yeah.
but if the University of Florida is getting $100 million a year from the government, right? Okay, great. But like, how many communications degrees do we need? How many marketing degrees do we actually need? Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to say that it's worthless to do something like that, but I can promise you that uh, there's a higher need for trades than there is for a marketing degree. Okay, I mean, I'll just go ahead and I'll die on that hill. So if we can somehow become advocates for the trade in general, not just ours and the ones we teach, but all of them, I think that that's something that will benefit everyone. What that looks like, how that starts, I think it would take an industry leader from every trade getting together and just sacrificing themselves and what they want and fighting for the future of what everybody else wants. And you know, is that something they want to do? Is that something they have time for? I don't know. Can we afford, can all the trades get together and throw some money at a lobby group and then have that lobby group go and try to do that? Maybe. But again, who's going to organize that? Who's got time to do all that, right? Usually trade guys work. I mean, I'll be working tonight at 10 p.m., right? So I'm up all day teaching, talking, we're doing this. I got consultations with students, and then I'm going to go hop in my truck with my boy Victor, and we're going to go to a restaurant down in South Orlando off Chickasaw Trail, and we're going to go do a cleaning. So, there's a lot to do. Who has time to do anything else, right?
I love that you're still in it, apart
Yeah.
from working in the training aside, but actually still in the business. And you need to do that. Like there's so many instances of people who become coaches or trainers or make a training business, and then they get away from the
Sure.
actual work and they lose sight of it. We see it often, and there's some rare instances, like in your case, that no, that people stay in it, and that's where success comes, because you really need to be in the weeds at the end of the day. Like Gary V. I imagine you know Gary Vaynerchuk. So
Yeah.
for anyone who's listening who doesn't follow Gary V, he, apart from running this global immense business plus many other side businesses that he has, he is there every day and he knows live social shopping is big. Then he goes in and he's selling on Whatnot and he's giving advice on there, but at the same time he's selling coffee mugs and he's building a brand of like trading cards, and
Sure.
he's just doing everything because everything comes back to what his business does or his other business teaches or etc. But he's in the weeds, and so he knows what's working and not working. And in your case, since the codes are changing so often, if you're not in it, like even just reading the codes, you might realize something in the day to day that, oh man, we should really pick up on this new index or whatever.
Yeah, a great example of code changing in between books um, is another course that we teach, right? And so last in 2023, in between the 2021 2024 code books coming out, now not only does the hood system have to be inspected, maintained, and potentially cleaned by a certified trained professional, now the exterior of appliances in kitchens must have the same type of inspection. Now, if you've been in the back of the kitchen before, for anyone listening, or if you have, Armando, some people do not clean the exterior of their ovens or their fryers or whatever, right? And there's this buildup that accumulates on the outside, and after oil and grease hardens, it becomes carbonized. If you're familiar with Star Wars, right? It's carbon. That's what Han Solo gets put in.
Mm-hmm.
That hard substance gets stuck to the exterior of these appliances. Okay, and they can catch fire just like anything else can, right? And so it has been happening more and more and more. So what do? 2023, they come out with a new code, 12.7.1 and 12.7.2, that says now the exterior of all commercial appliances in a kitchen must be inspected, maintained, and if necessary, with grease-laden vapors, cleaned. Okay? So if that's not being done at restaurants now, I can tell you that no one's doing that right now. Okay, one of the reasons we adopted the trade and we started teaching the course is because it's a very easy transition for our hood guys and girls. Now I'm doing the hoods. Hey, just so you know, and again, it's not a sales tactic. The code has changed. I can pull it in the book right now. All right, the code says right here that this has to be done now. So I'm maintaining your hood systems, but now I have to do the appliances, and it's not the interior; it's the exterior, right? Because that's where that grease sort of builds up. They're built to have fires inside, right? Because they cook stuff, right? You can maintain it, you can close it up. Hopefully, the fire will go out. But if the fire starts on the outside, yeah, what do you do? So if you're not up to date on this stuff and you don't know, for all of 2023, right, leading into the book being released in 2024, excuse me, you had a fire on the exterior of your fryer or whatever, right, and your whole building burns down. The fire marshal comes in and says, "Oh, well, they know where the fire starts, right? They know if it's a match, they know if it's an outlet, they know. So, oh, it looks like a fire started on the exterior of your fryer here from this buildup with this carbon. And so, hey, can you provide me with your certification of completion for the inspection of this?" And they're going to be like, and they would be like, "What are you even talking about?" Right? And so, and they're like, "Well, guess what? We're not paying your claim out." So it's little stuff like that. Does it happen all the time? No, right? But the 50 to 100 people in America that it does happen to every year, they sure as heck wish they knew about it.
Yes, I love the educational piece where you're just telling them what they actually need to know instead of
I mean, these restaurants are millions of dollars, right? And if you don't, and if your hood cleaner, right, is not up to date on the code, if they're not an MFS student, there's a good chance they're not. And if they're not up to date on it and something happens, you're liable as a restaurant owner, right? The fire marshal's not liable, right? They're doing their job, the way that they know how to do it. If their jurisdiction's ever been educated, doesn't have an up to date, doesn't have an NFPA, membership, for example, so they get updated, they're not going to know. So that's why we teach our guys to do that, so that they can be fully prepared to do the right thing and then make a living doing it. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
no, it's great. And I see some of your videos on your site like teaching people like, you can make a business out of this. Like it's not only you can get better at the trade and get hired somewhere else. It's you can literally build your own business about this and actually do really well.
So again, there's a free webinar on our YouTube page. Chris does it. The guy's a millionaire. Okay, I can tell you that. He didn't have. Yeah, he probably wouldn't tell you that just because he's a very humble guy. He's from Greek origin. First time, first generation American, from my understanding, I believe. Maybe second, but regardless, we've done the math. It's on there. Two guys on a truck doing 10 jobs a week can make $364,000 a year on average. One truck. Put three trucks on the road doing 30 jobs a week. Now, again, this is not a get rich quick scheme. It's not easy to go find 30 restaurants to clean in a week for three trucks. Okay, it takes some work, takes some build out, but we help with that. So, on average, one truck can make $364,000 a year. Do some math. Pay a couple guys $50,000 to $75,000 a year. That leaves you, maybe materials another 50 grand. So you can make about $100,000 a year not doing anything but managing one truck. Now, does that happen from the beginning? No, but it does happen for some guys, and some guys got five trucks. I got one of my friends, or well, I call them friends now. I got a client. He has five trucks, right? We helped guys get contracts for Piggly Wiggly and Darden and Bring. All these types of scenarios are possible. Again, is it everybody? No, but success is different to everybody. We got guys that come and take the class, and they just want to go themselves and do a couple jobs a week, make a couple $1,000, and they work 10 hours a week. 15 hours a week, and that's fine. They don't even have a second person. Now, you should have a second person, right, when you're doing this work, but some guys don't. It's up to them. But everything's possible, as long as you work hard and keep your head down and do the right thing.
Nice. How often do people? So let's say you start a business and you have a truck or multiple trucks, and you go and do the cleanings or inspections or whatever you need to do. Let's say you have 10 restaurant clients. Are you going to them every few weeks, every few months, every few days? How does that work? And how?
Sure. So inside the NFPA 96 code book, there's something called a frequency schedule. And that frequency schedule is based off of multiple items. What their cooking material is, what they're cooking with as far as oil. Are they using wood, charcoal? Are they 24 hours a day? Are they an event hall? Are they a church? Are they a casino? So there's multiple things inside of the code book, and we have taken all that info, made it very easy to digest in our textbook. And then when we teach people how to do that, each place is different. So one restaurant could be 12 times. One restaurant could be one time a year. Casinos, generally, they want to do it every week, every 2 weeks, just because of their liability with having people. Anytime there's people living above a restaurant, those places generally want to do it more than once a month. But once a month is going to be like your barbecue restaurants and stuff like that. And then, like I said, like an event hall or like a church place, that's usually once a year, or like a daycare center. I mean, the possibility is, prisons, hospitals, daycares, food trucks, every single one of these places has to be inspected at least once a year, and sometimes cleaned, right? And that's a different price point, and that we teach them how to do that, how to work it, and how to build the business.
That's amazing. Keith, I know you have somewhere to get to. I really appreciate you coming onto the show. This has been really insightful. I had no idea about all this, and every time I go to a restaurant now, I'm gonna I'm going to be looking at other things that
Right.
maybe I wasn't looking at before, but I really appreciate you coming on. If people want to learn a little bit more about MFS or exhaust hood cleaning, or I know you also have kitchen appliance cleaning now,
Yep.
where is the best way to find you? And finally, if you could also just give a recommendation to someone who's thinking of going into a specific trade, what would be
Sure.
their ideal next step?
Yeah, I'll answer the second one first, and then I'll give my info if that's cool with you, Armando.
Cool. Yeah.
The most important thing when you're building a business, whether you're going to open an ice cream shop or you want to do hoods, okay, is you need to do a business plan, right? You need to do some research. You need to find out what the need is in your local community, okay? Now, here in Orlando, probably a lot easier, right? There's 3,000 restaurants just in like the city that I live in, right? And so it's very easy to sort of know, okay, there's 3,000 restaurants, somebody's doing this work, right? So I would say a business plan, doing your due diligence, doing your research on the target market that you want to focus on. Once you've accomplished that and you see that it is a good thing to go do, right? Because that's step one. Once you've done that, I think the second thing is to get your education. Now, what does that look like? Is there a school you can attend? Is there a conference you can go to? Do you need to go be someone's assistant for a while and learn how to do it? Whatever that looks like. So, first thing first is understand your target market, understand your area. Second thing would be to get educated in it, whatever that looks like. From that point, it's trial by fire. No business owner that I'm aware of, unless their dad did it for them or their grandpa, walks straight into some place and becomes really rich, right? Now, if that's the case, great. As long as you don't mess it up, what they've built, kudos to you. I don't think there's anything wrong with that whatsoever. So I think those are some important steps. And if you want to learn more about us, we're at www.mfstradeschool.com. Very simple. If you type in MFS Trade School, we will pop up. Our YouTube channel will pop up. Our website will pop up. Not only do we teach the 7 different trades, which one includes public entity bidding, right? Because government contracts are out there. Every school has a kitchen, and every school has to be cleaned. Those are $250,000, $500,000, $1 million contracts that the government puts out there for people. And so you can find us MFS Trade School anywhere. You can call us our 1-800 number. I mean, you can easily find my cell phone number on there, and I'll pick up. Chris will pick up. We're here to help. We can answer questions about your particular restaurant if you want to build a trade. And I have friends that do everything here locally. Fire suppression, like I mentioned, plumbing. So we're here to help.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us, Keith. I'll put some of those links in the show notes, and thank everyone for listening. Talk to you in the next show. Cheers.
Appreciate it, Armando. Pleasure to meet you, sir.
Likewise.